Urgent, JJ Redick made a strong statement about the Lakers' new hire. Stay until the end to find out everything, but first leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any Lakers news. JJ Redick, newly appointed head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, will be guiding Deandre Ayton in the upcoming NBA season. Ayton, who recently parted ways with the Portland Trail Blazers, is set to sign a 2-year deal with the Lakers. The move has sparked a mix of reactions among fans. Some are intrigued, others skeptical, mostly due to Ayton's playing style and questions surrounding his professionalism. But Redick's previous remarks about the big man offer a window into his mindset and what he sees in Ayton. Back in 2022, while still serving as an NBA analyst at ESPN, Redick participated in a spirited on-air conversation with Patrick Beverley. The topic? Ayton's on-court value. Redick didn't hold back his praise. "DeAndre's a phenomenal player. Some people might label him as average, but to me he's far more than that. He absolutely dominates smaller defenders around the basket," Redick asserted. "And let's not ignore the fact that he and Chris Paul make up the most efficient pick-and-roll duo in the league right now. So yeah, I think the guy is exceptional." Those comments may now be resurfacing because Redick's opinion is no longer just commentary, it has real-world consequences. He'll now be the one managing Ayton's minutes, growth, and overall role within the team. Back when he made those statements, Redick didn't have to concern himself with locker room chemistry or daily discipline. But today he has to consider the complete package that comes with Ayton, both the talent and the baggage. Ayton has long been viewed as a skilled offensive center with natural scoring ability. On the flip side, he has frequently come under scrutiny for his effort, or lack thereof, on defense. Even his most vocal supporters can't deny the inconsistencies in his intensity and impact on that end of the floor. Redick himself acknowledged that issue in his prior analysis, stating that Ayton's defensive shortcomings were something any team needed to take seriously when assessing his overall value. In that same ESPN discussion, Redick pointed out an important trade consideration. He wasn't necessarily against the Phoenix Suns moving on from Ayton, especially if it meant addressing a more pressing need. "There are times when having a traditional big who rolls hard to the rim and finishes plays is really valuable," he noted. "And DeAndre is quite good at that. But here's the challenge. He's the only real trade asset Phoenix has that could potentially land them a bigger wing. Someone who can be a dynamic third scoring option. That's the real conundrum with this roster." That statement has aged well. The Suns eventually did move Ayton in a 3-team deal that landed them Jusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen, while Ayton ended up in Portland. Now he finds himself in Los Angeles, tasked with proving he's worth the investment and that he can be more than just an inconsistent talent. However, what Redick saw on the court may not fully prepare him for what's to come behind the scenes. Ayton's maturity and daily commitment to his craft have come into question time and again, no matter which team he's played for. According to Jason Quick of The Oregonian, the Lakers coaching staff and front office may be in for a reality check. "I'm sure Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick did their homework on Ayton. They probably heard positive things too," Quick wrote. "But I think he's going to test their patience. DeAndre's immature, and more than that, he carries himself like he's better than he actually is. His goofy behavior becomes a distraction, not because he's joking around but because he doesn't realize how it affects others." Quick's insights suggest Ayton's issues extend beyond occasional attitude lapses. They touch on his very presence in the locker room and on the court. While every team has a quirky teammate or two, Quick believes Ayton's behavior surpasses the typical threshold. "Some thought he was just a light-hearted, fun young guy," he continued. But Portland's veterans weren't amused, especially when that behavior translated into missing practices or delaying team travel. Eventually, the lack of professionalism wears everyone down. In essence, JJ Redick is stepping into uncharted territory. His past admiration for Ayton was based solely on game footage and stats. Now, he'll be responsible for shaping Ayton into a more complete and reliable contributor. Whether that transformation happens, or if Redick's patience will wear thin, remains to be seen. While JJ Redick once offered high praise for Deandre Ayton's basketball skills, the real challenge he faces as head coach of the Lakers goes far beyond jump hooks and pick-and-roll efficiency. As Ayton prepares to join one of the NBA's most scrutinized franchises, questions loom about his attitude, consistency, and professionalism behind closed doors. Talent is only part of the equation, especially in a high-pressure environment like Los Angeles. Ayton's career has been a paradox. On one hand, he's a former number 1 overall pick with undeniable skill in the post and a solid mid-range shot. On the other, he's developed a reputation for being mentally disengaged, aloof, and at times uncoachable. Even in Phoenix, where he helped the Suns reach the NBA Finals in 2021, friction with coaching staff and teammates often overshadowed his performance. The situation didn't improve in Portland. While Ayton was expected to take on a leadership role with the rebuilding Trail Blazers, multiple reports emerged about his lack of discipline and professionalism. According to Jason Quick of The Oregonian, many inside the organization were left frustrated, not necessarily with Ayton's talent, but with the way he carried himself day to day. "DeAndre doesn't realize how his behavior affects the group," Quick wrote. "He has this laid-back, detached energy that makes it hard for others to connect with him. It's not just that he jokes around, it's that he doesn't seem to grasp the seriousness of his role." This is where things get complicated for Redick. As a former player known for his work ethic and no-nonsense approach, he understands how important consistency and maturity are to building a winning culture. He's entering his first head coaching role, and he's tasked with managing a player who has historically struggled to meet expectations beyond box scores. Leadership in the NBA isn't just about X's and O's. It's about setting standards, enforcing accountability, and making sure every player understands their role. Ayton, despite being 7 feet tall and athletically gifted, often operates as if the team dynamic revolves around him. At least that's how many teammates have interpreted his demeanor in the past. Quick's reporting suggests that this lack of awareness is a long-standing issue. Some of the younger players thought DeAndre was just having fun. But the vets didn't see it that way. They were tired of the late arrivals, the missed team sessions, the avoidable distractions, he wrote. Eventually, those things start to wear down even the most patient locker room. This sentiment has echoed through multiple stops in Ayton's career. It raises the question, is his behavior a product of youth, or a deeper issue rooted in entitlement and lack of accountability? Either way, it will now fall on Redick to draw a line and establish a working relationship that pushes Ayton to evolve. There's also an emotional component at play. Ayton has expressed in past interviews that he often feels misunderstood. He's talked about wanting to enjoy the game, play freely, and be himself on and off the court. There's nothing wrong with that, but in professional sports, especially in a demanding market like LA, fun has to coexist with responsibility. JJ Redick is stepping into this dynamic fully aware of what's at stake. His comments from 2022 show admiration for Ayton's abilities, but also a sharp eye for team-building logic. Even back then, he mentioned that Ayton's contract situation made him an appealing trade chip because of the potential return. That wasn't a slight, it was a reflection of how valuable, yet frustrating, a player like Ayton can be when the full package isn't aligned. Now, Redick won't be commenting from the sidelines or analyzing footage in a studio. He'll be on the court, in practice, in team meetings, looking Ayton in the eye and trying to reach the part of him that wants to be great. Whether he can do that depends on more than strategy or skill development. It depends on trust, respect, and Ayton's willingness to be coached. It also depends on how much patience Redick, and the Lakers organization, are willing to give a player who has all the tools but hasn't quite figured out how to use them to their full potential. In this upcoming chapter of their professional lives, both coach and player have something to prove. For Redick, it's about validating his transition from analyst to head coach. For Ayton, it's about showing that he can be more than just promise on paper. It's about becoming someone a team can rely on, not just for points and rebounds but for maturity, effort, and leadership. Before he was named head coach of one of the NBA's most iconic franchises, JJ Redick built a reputation as one of the league's most articulate and respected analysts. His work with ESPN and his podcast The Old Man and the Three showed a deep understanding of the modern game, as well as a strong opinion on the players who shape it. Now, Redick finds himself in the middle of a reality he once only observed, trying to get the most out of DeAndre Ayton. As an analyst, Redick had the benefit of distance. He could evaluate players like Ayton through the lens of data, tape, and performance trends. He admired Ayton's soft touch around the basket, his ability to finish through contact, and his chemistry with pick-and-roll ball handlers. But he also recognized what many scouts and insiders saw: a center with elite potential who too often drifted in and out of games without making a consistent impact. Transitioning from commentary to coaching is a leap not many make, and even fewer succeed in. The dynamics are entirely different. Observing effort is one thing, demanding it daily, especially from someone like Ayton, is another. Redick must now shift from being a voice of critique to a leader who commands accountability. This transition adds another layer of complexity to Ayton's arrival in Los Angeles. As a player, Ayton hasn't always responded well to authoritative voices. In Phoenix, his relationship with coach Monty Williams reportedly grew strained over time, especially when it came to motivation and role definition. There were moments when Ayton seemed disconnected from the team's mission, an attitude that clashed with Williams' strict culture of discipline and high expectations. Redick, however, brings a different energy. Though unproven as a coach, he's respected for his intelligence, straightforwardness, and competitive mindset. More importantly, he's not far removed from his own playing days, which may help him connect with Ayton in ways other coaches haven't. But with that relatability comes risk. If Redick is too lenient, Ayton might interpret it as permission to maintain old habits. If he's too strict, he risks alienating a player who's already known for tuning out structure. Striking that balance will be crucial to making this partnership work. Sources around the league have pointed out that Redick's hiring was, in part, a cultural move by the Lakers. After years of star-centered rosters and internal instability, the franchise is looking to foster a more unified, long-term vision. Redick fits that mold, not just as a tactician but as a voice that can command respect across generations. His challenge is aligning that vision with the personalities in the locker room, Ayton included. In this sense, Ayton could become the perfect litmus test for Redick's leadership. If he can connect with Ayton, challenge him, and elevate his consistency, it would validate Redick's approach and signal to the league that he can manage complex players. On the other hand, if Ayton fails to respond, it could raise early doubts about Redick's ability to steer a locker room full of big personalities. Ayton's past coaches have tried different methods, some with patience, others with pressure, but the results were always mixed. One thing has remained consistent: Ayton's physical gifts have never been the problem. He can score, rebound, protect the rim, and run the floor. It's his mental approach, his focus, effort, and maturity that continues to hold him back. Redick understands this. In past broadcasts, he often emphasized the importance of intentionality in basketball. Players who succeed, he said, aren't just physically prepared, they're mentally locked in. They understand their roles and attack them with purpose. That's what Redick will now demand of Ayton: a higher level of mental commitment and emotional maturity. Whether Ayton is ready to meet those demands is the real question. He's no longer the inexperienced prospect trying to prove himself in Phoenix. He's entering his 7th NBA season, and the narrative around him is shifting. Potential is no longer enough, production and professionalism must follow. As for Redick, this moment marks his official arrival as a coach. He's no longer just analyzing players, he's responsible for developing them. The decisions he makes with Ayton, how he motivates him, how he handles setbacks, how he sets expectations, will help define not just Ayton's arc in LA, but Redick's future on the sidelines as well. In many ways, the Ayton-Redick partnership is a test of belief: Redick's belief in what Ayton can become, and Ayton's belief in a coach who once praised him on TV, but now must push him in real life. For all his physical tools, Deandre Ayton's journey in the NBA has always been shaped by something less visible: mindset. It's a subject that coaches whisper about behind closed doors, that teammates dance around in interviews, and that analysts like JJ Redick once was try to decode from a distance. Now, Redick finds himself in the heart of that mystery, tasked with bringing consistency and intensity out of a player who has, at times, seemed unsure of who he wants to be on the court. Ayton has the talent to dominate. Few big men possess his blend of size, fluidity, and finesse. He can run the floor like a forward, shoot from mid-range with touch, and finish over defenders with soft hands. But for every night where he looks like a franchise cornerstone, there's another where he fades into the background, collecting quiet stats while the game unfolds around him. The inconsistency isn't about skill, it's about engagement. Some nights, Ayton plays with fire. He crashes the glass, calls for the ball, and holds his position with confidence. On others, he drifts. He'll settle for jumpers, shy away from contact, and appear disconnected from the rhythm of the game. That disparity is what frustrates coaches, disappoints fans, and keeps executives up at night. JJ Redick, now on the other side of the commentary table, has the unique challenge of reaching into that psychological space. His job isn't just to coach Ayton's body, it's to inspire his mind. This might be Redick's greatest advantage. Unlike many veteran coaches who rely on institutional authority, Redick brings relatability. He knows what it's like to wake up sore from a back-to-back. He understands the pressure of living up to expectations and the mental fatigue of a long season. That lived experience could become a powerful tool in connecting with Ayton in ways previous coaches haven't managed. The question is whether Ayton is ready to be challenged, not just physically but emotionally. In his early years, Ayton often seemed caught between roles. Was he supposed to be a dominant post presence? A modern mobile center? A sidekick to stars, or a centerpiece in his own right? The lack of clarity may have contributed to his inconsistent focus. At times, he's admitted to feeling misunderstood, both by media and by the teams he's played for. In Phoenix, for example, Ayton was often the fourth option behind Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and Mikal Bridges. In Portland, he was expected to lead a young squad but never quite embraced the role with the intensity the front office hoped for. Now in Los Angeles, the role may finally be clearer. Anchor the defense, clean the glass, finish around the rim, and play with consistent energy. That clarity can be freeing. But it also comes with pressure. There will be no excuses this time. The Lakers are a win-now organization. The lights are brighter, the criticism is louder, and the tolerance for inconsistency is much lower. JJ Redick knows that. And Ayton will soon learn it too. To reach Ayton mentally, Redick may lean on his experience with high IQ veterans. During his playing days, Redick was surrounded by pros like Chris Paul, Dwight Howard, Joel Embiid, and Luka Doncic, players who approached the game with intense focus and purpose. Redick often spoke about the importance of routine, of film study, of building good habits day by day. These are the lessons Ayton needs now more than ever. Building that mindset won't happen overnight. It'll take time, honest conversations, and likely a few setbacks. But the effort is worth it. Because if Redick can unlock Ayton's competitive edge, if he can get him to play every night with the urgency that elite bigs bring, he won't just have a talented player. He'll have a force. It's also important to consider the emotional support system around Ayton. The Lakers, for all their chaos over the years, are actually well equipped in terms of veteran leadership. LeBron James, even in the twilight of his career, is still a commanding presence. Anthony Davis, too, can serve as a model, another big man who had to learn how to balance expectation with execution. If those voices align with Redick's message, Ayton may finally be in a situation stable enough to grow, both as a player and as a professional. In the end, this chapter of Ayton's career may come down to trust. Trust in Redick's guidance, trust in the role he's given, and most importantly, trust in himself. It's about shedding the labels of underachiever or distraction, and embracing the identity of a competitor. Not just sometimes but every night. Redick, for his part, seems ready for that challenge. The next step is seeing if Ayton is ready to meet him halfway. Joining the Los Angeles Lakers is not like joining any other NBA team. The expectations are heavier, the spotlight is harsher, and the noise never stops. For Deandre Ayton, who has spent his career in smaller markets with quieter media landscapes, this shift could be transformative or overwhelming. At the center of this transition stands JJ Redick, a rookie head coach expected to mold not only strategies but psyches. The Lakers are an institution built on legacy. From Magic Johnson to Kobe Bryant to LeBron James, the franchise has always operated under a singular standard: win championships. Simply making the playoffs is not good enough. Talent alone means little without drive, sacrifice, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. This culture is what Ayton now steps into, and he must do so without hesitation. In Phoenix, the pressure came in waves. There were stretches of irrelevance before the team's 2021 finals run, and even then the spotlight mostly focused on Devin Booker and Chris Paul. In Portland, expectations were almost non-existent. Ayton was part of a rebuilding team more concerned with development than results. In Los Angeles, however, everything changes. Every missed rotation, every lackluster effort, every late arrival to practice. These things don't go unnoticed in a Lakers uniform. The media market is unforgiving. The fan base is passionate and vocal. And internally, the organization holds players to a championship standard, no matter where they rank in the rotation. JJ Redick understands this. He spent most of his career as a role player on contending teams. He knows how fragile chemistry is, how quickly narratives can turn, and how little room there is for complacency. As head coach, he'll be tasked with building a locker room that balances intensity with patience, development with urgency. Ayton could thrive in this structure, or crumble under it. And that's what makes this season so pivotal for both him and Redick. The Lakers roster is uniquely suited to help, or hinder, Ayton's growth. On the one hand, the presence of veterans like LeBron James and Anthony Davis provides invaluable leadership. They've seen every type of teammate, every style of game, and every form of adversity. If Ayton is willing to listen, he can absorb wisdom from two of the most accomplished players of his generation. But that same leadership group won't tolerate distractions or entitlement. If Ayton brings a lack of focus or maturity, he won't find sympathy, he'll find the bench. That's the dual nature of this opportunity. There's a support system in place, but it's only accessible to those who meet the standard. Redick's role, then, is to be both conduit and catalyst. He must bridge the gap between Ayton and the veteran core, between potential and performance. He has to create a framework where Ayton's talent is maximized, and his flaws are addressed without sugarcoating. That means Redick can't be afraid to challenge Ayton, publicly if necessary. He must set expectations early, reinforce them often, and hold Ayton accountable the way a championship-level franchise requires. That may involve tough conversations, strategic benchings, or even hard reassessments of Ayton's role if things don't progress. But Redick can also empower Ayton in ways previous coaches didn't. He can give him a defined role, consistent responsibilities, and a voice in how the team operates. Confidence and structure often go hand in hand, and Redick seems aware of how important it is for players like Ayton to feel both challenged and supported. Ayton's skill set fits well with what the Lakers need. A lob threat in transition, a rim protector on defense, a big body to absorb physical matchups. He checks all those boxes. But to earn minutes in crunch time, to become a trusted piece in a playoff run, he'll need to show more: consistent energy, vocal leadership, and a willingness to do the dirty work. This is what separates stars from role players and contenders from pretenders. And this is what Redick, despite being a first-time coach, seems fully prepared to demand. There's also something poetic about this setup. Ayton, a player often labeled as misunderstood and underwhelming, joins forces with Redick, a coach often underestimated for his lack of bench experience. Both are walking into the storm with reputations to reshape and narratives to redefine. If they succeed together, it won't just be a win for the Lakers, it will be a win for redemption itself. Los Angeles offers the kind of proving ground that reveals truth. There are no safe spaces here, no grace periods. Either you show up and deliver or you don't. Ayton's future, his legacy even, may depend on how he answers that challenge. For all the talk about Deandre Ayton's skill, what has often defined his NBA journey isn't what he does during games, it's what happens outside of them. Whispers about his professionalism, locker room presence, and maturity have followed him from Phoenix to Portland, and now to Los Angeles. These aren't just tabloid rumors. They're echoed by former teammates, coaches, and insiders who've watched Ayton up close for years. When the Lakers signed Ayton, some fans were cautiously optimistic. Others were skeptical, not because of his stats but because of his habits. Could he really handle the culture of accountability that defines a franchise built on legends and championships? Could JJ Redick, a rookie coach, guide a player who has resisted structure in the past? This isn't a question of attitude in the traditional sense. Ayton isn't confrontational or toxic in the locker room. In fact, some have described him as goofy, even charming at times. But there's a fine line between being laid back and being careless. And according to many around the league, Ayton has walked that line too casually for too long. In Portland, reports surfaced about missed practices, tardiness, and a general lack of urgency. Some veterans saw him as a distraction, not malicious but indifferent. He joked during film sessions, zoned out in meetings, and didn't always treat travel schedules or rehab routines with the seriousness they demand. What some labeled immaturity, others called entitlement. A sense that Ayton believed his talent was enough regardless of effort. JJ Redick must now confront that reality. And he'll have to do it quickly. As a former player, Redick understands locker room dynamics better than most. He's seen how one player's lack of discipline can infect an entire team. He's also witnessed firsthand how tough love, delivered the right way, can reshape a player's trajectory. That's likely what he'll try with Ayton, setting firm boundaries, offering real mentorship, and demanding consistency. But it won't be easy. Changing habits is far more difficult than adjusting shooting form or defensive positioning. It requires self-awareness, humility, and a willingness to be uncomfortable. The question is whether Ayton, now entering his 7th NBA season, is finally ready to face those hard truths. The stakes have never been higher. Ayton is no longer a rising prospect. He's a veteran being given another chance in one of the most unforgiving markets in sports. The Lakers aren't interested in player development projects. They want production, reliability, and professionalism. If Ayton doesn't deliver those things, he won't last long in LA. That's where Redick's leadership will be tested most. Can he build a system where Ayton feels both challenged and valued? Can he create a culture where effort and maturity aren't just expected, but contagious? There's also the psychological factor. Ayton has often been described as someone who wants to be liked. He thrives when he feels accepted and trusted. Redick could use that as leverage, creating an environment of accountability rooted in respect rather than control. It's a delicate balance, but one Redick seems uniquely qualified to walk. Still, some habits die hard. And the fear among league insiders is that Ayton, if not fully engaged from day one, could fall back into old patterns. Joking during drills. Half-speed walkthroughs. Passive stretches in games that matter. If that happens, Redick will have to make difficult decisions. Whether to bench a talented player, cut back minutes, or even recommend a trade down the line. These are the kinds of calls that can define a coach's tenure, especially in a high-pressure environment like Los Angeles. But there's another possibility, one that Lakers fans hope for and Redick surely envisions. That Ayton finally grows up. That the bright lights, the demanding standards, and the trust of a fresh voice unlock a new level of focus. That he sees this opportunity not as another stop, but as a fresh start. Redick's public comments have hinted at cautious optimism. He's acknowledged Ayton's talent and praised his offensive instincts. But more importantly, he's emphasized the need for professionalism, daily effort, and emotional commitment. Those aren't just buzzwords, they're requirements. Ayton's time in Los Angeles may come down to one thing: how seriously he takes this chapter of his career. Not just the games, but the daily grind, the early mornings, the late-night film, the discipline it takes to become more than just potential. Because in this league, talent opens the door. But only maturity keeps you in the room. As the Lakers begin a new chapter under head coach JJ Redick, one of the biggest questions surrounding the team isn't just about style of play, but how Deandre Ayton fits into it. Redick, a former sharpshooter with a deep understanding of offensive spacing and tempo, is expected to modernize the Lakers system. And that puts Ayton right at the center, literally and figuratively. From a purely tactical standpoint, Ayton offers intriguing versatility. At his best, he's a mobile, athletic big who can run the floor, finish pick and rolls, and protect the rim. But fitting him into a system that values ball movement, tempo, and defensive rotations will take more than physical tools. It'll require adaptation, awareness, and buy-in. A new role in a new era. Redick is expected to draw inspiration from his time with coaches like Stan Van Gundy, Doc Rivers, and Rick Carlisle, systems that emphasized spacing, movement, and decision-making. For Ayton, that could mean fewer post-ups and more involvement as a screener, roller, and short-roll playmaker. In Phoenix, Ayton was occasionally given post touches but was more often used as a traditional big. Set a screen, roll to the rim, clean up misses. In Portland, his role expanded slightly, but the offense lacked structure and playmaking depth. In Los Angeles, Redick may ask him to do something new, operate with purpose within a read-and-react defense. Expect Ayton to be a primary screener in ghost actions and drag screens in early offense. His ability to set solid picks and dive hard to the rim will create opportunities for the team's guards to collapse defenses. And if Ayton can improve as a passer, making quick reads out of the short roll, he could become a valuable connector in the half court. But he'll need to embrace that role. It's not glamorous. It requires patience, effort, and the willingness to sacrifice personal stats for team flow. Ayton must understand that his touches may not always come on post-ups, but that his presence in the paint opens up the floor for shooters and slashers alike. Defense. Promise with a side of concern. Defensively, Ayton is a mixed bag. He has the size, strength, and mobility to be a rim deterrent, but too often his effort fluctuates. There are nights he controls the paint and dominates the boards, and others where he's caught flat-footed on rotations or slow to recover in pick-and-roll defense. Redick knows that for the Lakers to contend, defense has to be a pillar. And Ayton will be one of its anchors. In a system likely to emphasize switchability and drop coverage variations, Ayton's responsibility will be twofold: protect the rim and communicate. He must be vocal, calling out screens, directing traffic, and holding the back line together. These are things he's struggled with in the past, often fading into the background or failing to assert himself as a defensive leader. The Lakers' defensive scheme may borrow elements from the successful coverages used with Anthony Davis. If both big men share the court, spacing and coverage discipline will be paramount. Ayton will need to learn when to hedge, when to drop, and how to move laterally without fouling. These aren't minor adjustments. They're the difference between being playable in the postseason and becoming a liability. Transition game. Unleashing athleticism. Where Ayton could thrive most immediately is in transition. Redick has spoken about speeding up the Lakers' tempo, and Ayton runs the floor as well as any big in the league. If he commits to sprinting on every possession, he'll generate easy baskets, force mismatches, and keep defenders honest. This will require conditioning, of course, but more importantly, mentality. Ayton must want to be first down the court. He must treat every missed shot as an opportunity, not just to rebound but to ignite a break. If Redick gets buy-in here, Ayton could become one of the league's most dangerous transition bigs. The Lakers, who struggled with pace last season, would benefit immensely from that kind of energy boost. The wild card, Redick's vision. JJ Redick is a basketball mind untested as a head coach but respected for his intelligence. He sees the game through a modern lens. Ayton's usage won't be about volume, it'll be about efficiency and synergy. Redick is likely to prioritize spacing, unselfishness, and rhythm over individual isolation plays. If Ayton proves he can fit within that structure, setting hard screens, rotating on time, keeping possessions alive, he could become a key cog in a playoff machine. But if he demands touches without impact or drifts in and out of plays, Redick may be forced to prioritize players with less talent but more reliability. The system won't wait. Redick's job isn't to accommodate Ayton's preferences, it's to win. Opportunity knocks. This is a rare moment, a talented player meeting a fresh system at a pivotal career stage. Ayton has the chance to redefine how he's viewed in the league, not just as a big man with potential, but as a disciplined contributor to a championship contender. The pieces are in place. The coach has a vision. The role is clear. All that's left is for Ayton to step into it, and stay there. For any player entering the Los Angeles Lakers orbit, one truth becomes immediately clear. This is LeBron James' world, and you're operating within it. Add Anthony Davis to the mix, and you're sharing the floor with two generational talents who not only define the game on the court but set the tone off it. For Deandre Ayton, this isn't just about basketball, It's about adapting to greatness and, more importantly, learning from it. The unwritten rules of playing with legends. LeBron and AD don't just demand performance, they inspire it. Their presence alone forces teammates to elevate their focus, preparation, and execution. But that same presence also comes with expectations. There's a hierarchy, and you either buy into the culture or risk being left out of it. Ayton, who has struggled with maturity and consistency in prior stops, now finds himself under an unrelenting microscope. Every gesture, every missed rotation, every late arrival to a meeting becomes magnified. Not by the media, but by the example set in the locker room. LeBron is infamous for his basketball IQ and attention to detail. He knows every teammate's tendencies and he expects them to know his. He watches body language. He notices lapses. He doesn't yell often, but when he does, it means something's off. AD, while quieter, carries his own weight. He leads through presence, through physicality, and through the daily grind. If Ayton hopes to carve out space alongside these two, he'll need to prove one thing above all: he's reliable. Earning respect. Respect in the NBA isn't given, it's earned. Ayton may have been a #1 overall pick, but that holds little weight next to champions. To build credibility in this locker room, he'll need to show that he's serious about winning, about preparation, and about accountability. That means no cutting corners. No brushing off criticism. No jokes during film sessions that are meant to be locked-in moments. LeBron and Davis aren't known to babysit. If Ayton comes in with the right attitude, early to practice, vocal on defense, fully engaged in team meetings, he'll gain their trust. And with their trust comes opportunity. More touches, more freedom, and a greater role in high-stakes moments. But if Ayton slips into old habits, passive games, inconsistent effort, poor conditioning, he won't just disappoint Redick. He'll lose the confidence of the core. And in a team like the Lakers, that can be a death sentence for your rotation status. Learning from greatness. There's another way to view this challenge, not as pressure but as a gift. Few players ever get the chance to share the court with Hall of Famers in their prime. Ayton has the opportunity to observe greatness up close, every day. He can study LeBron's routine, from how he stretches to how he communicates during timeouts. He can watch how Davis prepares mentally and physically to anchor a defense. Ayton has always had the raw talent. What he's lacked is consistency of purpose. In LeBron and AD, he has two blueprints, not just for how to play but how to lead, how to last, and how to evolve. Redick will likely encourage this mentorship dynamic. He knows that Ayton's development doesn't rely solely on coaching. It depends just as much on his environment. And few environments in basketball are as elite, demanding, and instructive as the one created by James and Davis. Navigating the ego equation. There's also the reality of ego. Every NBA player has one, and rightfully so. Ayton is no different. He believes he's more skilled than many give him credit for. He sees himself as more than a rim runner or screen setter. The key for Ayton will be balancing self-belief with self-awareness. LeBron and Davis didn't get to where they are by suppressing ego, but by controlling it. They channel it into preparation, into team goals, into execution. If Ayton can learn to do the same, if he can bring his competitive fire without allowing it to become entitlement, he can thrive in this system. It's okay for Ayton to want more responsibility. The Lakers might even benefit from a third scoring option who can give LeBron and AD some breathing room. But he has to earn that responsibility through discipline, not demands. Chemistry is everything. At the end of the day, this all comes down to chemistry. Not just in-game chemistry, but emotional chemistry. Trust, communication, shared effort. Redick will play a central role in cultivating that chemistry. But Ayton's success will ultimately depend on his willingness to step back, observe, and then step up when it matters. He doesn't have to be perfect. He just has to be present, prepared, and plugged in. If he does that, if he aligns his energy with the leadership of LeBron and AD, he could unlock the best version of himself. And the Lakers? They might just find in Ayton the piece they've been missing. There's no market in professional basketball quite like Los Angeles. The city is fast, loud, and unapologetically demanding. It's where legends are born, or broken. And for Deandre Ayton, a player trying to redefine his narrative, that reality will be impossible to ignore. This isn't Phoenix. It's not Portland. In LA, every possession is scrutinized, every mistake is replayed, and every rumor becomes a headline. The expectations are sky high. The patience is razor thin. And the fans? They don't just watch basketball, they live it. The market that never sleeps. From the moment Ayton puts on a Lakers jersey, he becomes part of a global brand. Every game, every post-game quote, every training session can spark headlines across ESPN, Twitter, and talk radio. That level of visibility can be thrilling, but also suffocating. If Ayton plays well, he'll hear cheers louder than anything he experienced in Arizona or Oregon. He'll feel the love. But if he coasts through games, misses assignments, or shows signs of detachment, the criticism will come swiftly and relentlessly. LA fans are smart. They know effort. They spot laziness. They won't forgive a max-level talent going through the motions. Media heat. And then there's the media. LA's sports media ecosystem is relentless. Beat writers, talk show hosts, former players turned analysts, they all have microphones and they all have opinions. Ayton's previous struggles with professionalism are already well documented. If those patterns repeat, they won't be gently analyzed, they'll be picked apart on live TV. JJ Redick, now a coach, knows this game well. He was once part of it, a sharp-tongued ESPN analyst himself. He'll protect his players when needed, but he won't coddle them. Redick understands the responsibility that comes with the Lakers platform. And he'll expect Ayton to meet that pressure head-on. Mental toughness, the new frontier. Ayton's physical gifts have never been in doubt. But in LA, what matters just as much, if not more, is mental resilience. Can he block out the noise? Can he stay locked in when the headlines turn negative? Can he bounce back from a poor game or a rough week without spiraling? This is where the maturity question returns. The best Lakers players, from Magic to Kobe to LeBron, weren't just talented. They were unshakable. They thrived under pressure. They turned criticism into fuel. Ayton doesn't need to become that overnight. But he does need to stop avoiding the fire. He has to step into it, accept it, and prove that he belongs on that stage, not just for his size but for his spine. Embracing the moment. The good news? Pressure cuts both ways. The same microscope that exposes flaws can also amplify growth. If Ayton brings consistent energy, protects the paint, and contributes to wins, the LA crowd will embrace him faster than any market in the league. He could go from being an afterthought in Portland to a fan favorite in a matter of weeks. LA is built for stars. And Ayton still has star potential, if he wants it enough. But it starts with how he reacts the first time the boos come. Or when he sees a tweet calling him soft. Or when he's benched for a defensive lapse in the fourth quarter of a nationally televised game. Will he fold? Or will he respond? Accountability culture. The Lakers locker room doesn't tolerate excuses. With veterans like LeBron, AD, and others who've been through NBA wars, every player is expected to own their role, take feedback, and respond with action. Ayton won't just be battling opponents on the court. He'll be battling the narrative. Fighting the perception that he's inconsistent, immature, or unmotivated. And the only way to rewrite that story is through performance. Daily, visible, consistent performance. No shortcuts. No filters. No hiding. The bright side of the spotlight. And yet, if Ayton embraces the moment, the reward is enormous. LA has turned role players into stars. It has revived careers, rebuilt reputations, and transformed potential into legacy. Dwight Howard's return to the Lakers is a prime example. Once viewed as a distraction, he redefined himself as a defensive anchor and fan favorite by buying into the culture. Ayton has that same opportunity. He can shed the labels. He can silence the doubts. He can go from the guy who was supposed to be great to the guy who finally figured it out. All it takes is commitment. And maybe, for the first time, accountability. The story of Deandre Ayton's career is still being written. At 25 years old, the former #1 overall pick stands at a crossroads. The Lakers' opportunity represents more than just a new contract or a new city. It's a chance to rewrite his narrative, to transform promise into lasting impact. A career of potential and pitfalls. Ayton entered the NBA with sky-high expectations. His size, athleticism, and skill set made him an instant projection for stardom. But along the way, inconsistency, questions about effort, and off-court distractions clouded his trajectory. Many fans and analysts see Ayton as a tantalizing, what could have been. A player with all the tools but without the mental approach needed to maximize them. This season in LA is his proving ground. What's at stake? At its core, Ayton's future hinges on his ability to embrace responsibility. He must move past the reputation of a talented but undisciplined big man and evolve into a reliable, professional leader on and off the court. Success here isn't measured just in points or rebounds. It's measured in consistency, showing up every night ready to compete. Growth, improving weaknesses and expanding his game. Leadership, earning respect in the locker room and setting a standard for younger teammates. Failing to do so could mean becoming another cautionary tale, a gifted athlete who never quite reached his potential. The Lakers' role. Los Angeles isn't just a new team, it's a unique ecosystem. The Lakers offer Ayton the best coaching, the best teammates, and the biggest stage. But with that comes immense pressure. JJ Redick's system will push Ayton to develop habits he may have neglected before. Off-ball movement, defensive awareness, professionalism. LeBron and Davis will demand accountability. The media and fans will demand excellence. Ayton's ability to thrive will depend on his willingness to embrace these challenges and evolve. The legacy he could build. If Ayton commits to the process, the Lakers could be the catalyst for a career renaissance. He has the tools to be a dominant defensive anchor, a vital offensive weapon who opens the floor, a respected veteran who mentors others. This isn't just about basketball. It's about proving to himself and the league that talent coupled with work ethic can overcome doubt. Final thought, the choice is his. At the end of the day, Deandre Ayton's legacy will be defined by the choices he makes now. Will he rise to the occasion, seize the moment, and become the player and person he's capable of being? Or will he let this opportunity slip through his fingers, fading into what might have been? The stage is set. The lights are bright. The ball is in his hands.